So I'm a switch gears here. Okay, I'm a jump over. I'm missing Chris right now, man. I'm missing the conversation and the debate back and forth, but it's all right. He'll be back next time, hopefully. We'll talk a little NBA, and not that anything dramatic's happening. We're just in the preseason. Where NBA's tipping off on the 22nd. What does that fall on? 22nd is Tuesday. So the NBA season actually kicks off on Tuesday. Maybe I'm just weird, but I'm not overly concerned about opening night. Like I enjoy the game a lot. We're going to play I'm playing in a fantasy league, and we'll see how that goes. We're drafting Monday night. So I don't know what you guys think about who you should take in the first pick. If I don't know who has the first pick yet, but I'm torn. If I got the first pick, would I take Giannis or would I take Luka at this point? And for some reason, part of me is thinking Luka. I know that Luka gets hurt, but I don't know. I don't know why. I can't even I can't give you a statistical reason why I would want to take Luka over Giannis at this point. But for some reason in my head, I want to take Luka. But who knows? We'll see if that even happens. I'll probably end up like the 6th or 7th pick at best. But I saw a couple stories that all of you are familiar with at this point. If you've paid any attention to sports as of late, how about the further drama that's happening in Houston with James Harden and the Rockets and all the nonsense that's going on down there. So obviously we know that last year they traded for Westbrook. They traded a great player in Chris Paul to get Westbrook, and they gave up a bunch of stuff to get him. And they thought, hey, we'll get these two best friends together. I guess they were hoping it's a stepbrother situation and they would have so much more room for activities. But it didn't quite work out that well. And Westbrook wanted out. And why did Westbrook want out? I mean, that's his best buddy. What's going on? Well, then we see the report that came out last week that Harden ran that team. Daryl Morey didn't run that team. Mike D'Antoni didn't run that team. And Harden ran that team. And I guess that's not overly shocking in today's culture of the NBA. I mean, you can even go back and watch The Last Dance, and you can see where Michael Jordan was pulling some strings. I know that there was a power struggle between he and the general manager, but Michael was pulling a lot of strings. Well, we see James has taken it well beyond that. And speaking of The Last Dance, they've started comparing James Harden and his interactions and what he's done all year to that of Dennis Rodman. And the reason they brought that up is because, James was basically taking upon himself to take some days off, and the team was giving him days off. So if they had some time off, he was just constantly taking private jets and going to Vegas and partying and having a great time. And basically, as one staffer put it, it's whatever James wants. That's what it comes down to. They didn't care if he was going and partying for 3 or 4 days straight in Vegas because they knew that, hey, when he comes back, he's going to put up a triple-double. You know what? He did. He did put up triple-doubles. He put up amazing stats, but he didn't get wins in the playoffs. I wonder why that is. He's routinely late for practices, routinely late for film sessions. I mean, they had one story where they were talking about Russell Westbrook was mad as fire that James wasn't there on time in the bubble, which you don't really have anywhere to go. They're in the bubble, and he's not on time for a film session, saying, go ahead and start without him. We'll but Mike D'Antoni says no because we'll have to start over once he arrives. And I think that was probably definitely the beginning of the end between he and Westbrook. And, I understand at this point that Harden is a top player. Maybe he's top end as far as weight at his position because he's been partying way too much and not keeping himself in shape. Everybody's been body shaming him for a week or so now. But I know that at the same time, he is a top player at his position. But is every top player worth the headache that they can be? I am of the belief that the team should get rid of him. I am of the belief that they should trade him away, figure out something, just get his money off the books, get his headache out the locker room, and develop a team. This is not what you want Silas coming into, the brand new head coach. This is not the headache that he probably wants to come into and having to deal with all this as far as James running things. And I understand it's a players' league. The coach is doing his best just to maintain all this, but there's no way that I would want to keep him. I would take I'd put out a call to everybody, and now everybody at this point knows that you probably want to get rid of him. So the compensation you're going to get back is never going to be what you want it to be. I'd figure out what the best compensation is, and I would just move on. Now, I know that James has said flat out that he wants to play in Brooklyn. He wants to be up there with his buddy KD. If I'm KD, I find Steve Nash, I find Sean Marks, I find the rest of the power team there in Brooklyn, and I say ignore all calls from Houston. Ignore all the calls. I understand that James is extremely talented, but he has enough of a headache with Kyrie right now. If you noticed the other day in the video that they were showing on ESPN and everywhere, the league has now said that they will not be testing for marijuana or weed, whatever you call it. They're not going to test for it this year. So what do we see Kyrie doing? Waving a bunch of it around on the side of the court. I'm kidding. It's not marijuana. I'm just joking. That's an awful joke. He's waving sage around, which I'm not into all that. I'm not an Indian. I don't do any of that type of stuff. I don't believe in it. I know that we might get hate because I said that, but I don't believe that that's true. I was watching a bunch of Twitter comments underneath that, and I saw one guy who was telling everybody stop waving that sage around and go find Jesus. Wholeheartedly agree. And then he was just obliterated on Twitter, where people were just going after him like crazy about it all. But it's silliness to me. So KD's already got enough of a headache when it comes to all the nonsense that Kyrie is doing, calling everybody peons, and he doesn't talk to pawns, and now he's out here burning weeds on the sideline to get rid of the bad juju or whatever that nonsense is. I don't know. Kyrie's already enough of a headache for KD. I would not be calling. I would not be responding to any texts, any calls, anything from Houston to add James Harden to have even more headache on what is supposed to be KD's comeback season. And he's already starting out pretty strong in the preseason, because they're going to have to give up way too much to get him. Again, in NBA, you have to have matching salaries and trades. Well, that means you've got to move a lot of stuff, because James Harden gets way too much money. He's getting like $40 million or more a year, and so that means you're going to have to send that back in compensation. And then it's got to be something Houston agrees with. So what have they said? They want a key player, some young players, and draft picks. Well, New Jersey doesn't, or excuse me, not New Jersey. I did that just for Chris. Brooklyn, they don't want to give up any of that. I mean, they're trying to build something for the future. You know, you've got some key pieces already. You got KD, you got Kyrie, you got Karis LeVert, you got Joe Harris, Jared Allen. You've got a decent core. You could fight for the East. Why bring in Harden? Why bring in even more headache, getting rid of young talent, losing picks for all these years? Why do it? You know, another destination that Harden has been rumored was Miami. Miami, they built their whole persona on playing hard and practicing hard and doing everything. I mean, Jimmy Butler comes in with his blue collar mentality and changes the whole roster, and they fight hard. Well, why would Miami want a guy who's been proven to show that he's lazy? He can't keep himself in shape. He's not going to push the rest of the team. He's taking time off. My God, you're going to put him in the party city that is Miami, and you're going to expect him to keep this team on track, and they're going to do good. I guess if you're making that trade, it's because, you know, the owner, was this Mickey Arians, and then Pat Riley, they just don't feel like that they have enough on their roster to completely win the East again and to go defeat the Lakers. That's the only reason I could see them making that trade. Okay, maybe you send Miles Leonard and his ridiculously heavy contract. Maybe you send either Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson, even though I wouldn't want to do that myself, because they were a huge reason as to why you got as far as you did last year, because they could spread the floor and shoot. Maybe you do that and you bring in Harden, and you know, maybe you compete really well for the East. You probably still don't have enough to beat the Lakers. Is it worth it then to give up all those young players, all those draft picks to bring in James Harden? No. The only team I could even possibly see that could do it and it possibly be a benefit is Philly. Philly, because the trade would have to center around sending Ben Simmons back. And I know Doc has said, he's been on record, that he wants to keep both of these guys together for a season and see how it goes. But that's the only way, that's the only scenario that works for me in my head, is that you send because obviously they're not going to take Tobias Harris, even though that would be the better trade for the 76ers. Send Tobias Harris, his ridiculously high contract, and maybe a few young guys, and you send them down there with like 14,000 picks. I don't know. And you send all that to Houston and hope that's enough to bring in Harden. But then how well does that work? Simmons can't play off the ball. He can't shoot. He has to be bringing the ball up. Embiid's not getting out of the lane. That's just where he lives. He can spread it some, but he needs to be in the paint. I mean, you're not supposed to be that big and be shooting threes all the time. Only Dirk Nowitzki's ever really pulled that off. So I think that's the only way it works out. But it would center around sending Ben Simmons back to Houston. If I'm Houston, I jump at it. I really do. I take it as soon as they give it to me. Even if it's just straight up trade, I take it. Get rid of James, bring in a possibility of a young star, and Ben Simmons, if he can stay healthy and learn how to shoot, you can put him beside John Wall. Who knows? Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, but at least you wouldn't have Harden in the locker room. So I've harped on that enough. I know that's maybe I'm too much of an anti-Harden guy. Maybe I should, give him a little more respect because, he is such a talented player, but I have a hard time with it. I have a hard time with the idea of paying guys that much money and giving them that much control and then receiving what is in my mind such a little return on investment. Sure, you sold tickets, and if at the end of the day it's all about making money, the NBA is all about making money, and I understand that. That's why Adam Silver has made so many changes. But at the end of the day, I want some rings too. If I'm an NBA owner, I want rings. That's the entire reason Milwaukee Bucks forked out all they did to sign Giannis to the Supermax, 5 years, $228 million. You break that down, it's like $45.6 million a year. I mean, that's a huge amount that's probably 45% of their overall salary cap that they've invested to one player, not to mention that they've maxed out. Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez is getting a ton of money. They just brought Jrue Holiday in there. I mean, they are going all in for the win because owners want rings. And that's what it all comes down to. In a year where you may not even be able to have people in the stands, you might as well get a ring to show for it. So we'll see how that goes. Let us know what you think about anything we discussed today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I definitely did enjoy just having this, getting it off my chest, I guess you could say. Hopefully Chris will be back. I'm hoping we can get a quick episode in between now and the season tip-off or sometime early next week because I want us to go ahead and get our NBA Rookies of the Year, MVPs, all that kind of stuff. I want to get it on record. So we'll probably only have about maybe one more show before Christmas, probably before the end of 2020, probably one more show, hopefully, and we'll have some fun. Maybe I'll try to bring Ben in because he's really knowledgeable at basketball, and I want to get his take on the fact that Jeff Goodman said the other day that without a healthy Kemba Walker, the Celtics are only the 6th best team in the East. I want to hear Ben's response to that. So hopefully we can get him on here. If you guys got any thoughts or comments, please let us know. And if not, we'll see you next time, guys.